Hi guys, so I just want to talk about the situation or issue that a lot of people are talking about on various YouTube channels, Twitch streams and World of Warcraft forums, and that is the global cooldown situation. So for those unaware of what I'm talking about, I'll give you a quick explanation. The global cooldown, otherwise known as the GCD, is the cooldown that starts whenever you cast a spell. This then prevents you from casting another spell until it's finished. A global cooldown is mainly in place to stop you from just mashing your most powerful spells over and over. However, there are exceptions that allow you to bypass the global cooldown rule. For example, defensive abilities are not normally on the global cooldown, and for good reason. Say a tank or any player, for example, was in a dungeon or a raid and was about to get hit by a deadly ability, and they could not use a defensive damage reducing spell that would save their life and ultimately keep them or the group alive, just because they were using their basic rotation and had to wait that extra second or two for the global cooldown to finish. That would be just silly, as when you use a defensive spell, it's normally because a dangerous situation has or is about to occur, so you need to be able to react and activate that ability ASAP, meaning when you really need it, it needs to activate as soon as you press that button. There are also DPS spells that are off the global cooldown. For example, every class will have some form of instant burst damage, things like a Fury Warrior's Battlecry or a Paladin's Avenging Wrath, along with things like Hero or Bloodlust. This means that these are instantly castable and bypass your normal global cooldown. This is beneficial because when a key moment in a fight occurs where a target needs to be nuked down as soon as possible, let's say for example the Maiden ad on the Fallen Avatar fight from the Tomb of Sagaris, all classes can instantly pop their DPS cooldowns and can instantly transfer their damage to that particular target without the need to wait 1 or 2 seconds for their global cooldown to complete, therefore potentially maximising the amount of damage they can do with their cooldowns in that particular window of opportunity. Now the issue is that in the new expansion Battle for Azeroth, that a large amount of abilities that were off the global cooldown are now on a global cooldown. I've listed on screen every ability that I know of so far that is now on the global cooldown table. I apologise if I have missed some off, but these are all that I could find as of the making of this video. These, remember, are not set in stone and could very easily be changed before the game goes live. But this does seem to be the road that Blizzard are taking us down. So why is this a problem? Well, it is and it isn't, and that might all depend on what content you enjoy playing in World of Warcraft. If you prefer PvP content over PvE content, then you may see this as a positive change. If you are a PvE or a raider, then you may see this as a negative change. A lot of PvP players seem to be very happy about this change, and as someone who pretty much never enters PvP at any level, then I will bow to their superior knowledge on this matter, as they know what they are talking about when it comes to PvP. So if this change really does benefit them and make their gameplay experience better, then that's great for them and I have no problem with it, but surely it would be better if it were just implemented for PvP. I don't understand why Blizzard always think both PvP and PvE need to be linked together in some way. Now from a PvE or raiding perspective, I feel that this is somewhat of a backward step, as it may have a huge impact on how effective your DPS might be compared to how it was prior to this change. In fact, you could maybe even call it a DPS nerf. Now depending on what class or spec you play may also affect whether this has a negative effect on your gameplay, as some classes are affected more than others. For example, if we take a look at a couple of classes that I have been playing in Alpha, which are the Paladin and the Warrior, which are also the 2 classes that I play the most in Legion, I will show you what I mean about the cooldown situation. So starting on the live game in Legion with the Protection Paladin, I have 3 abilities that will be effective here on this setup. They are Seraphim, Avenging Wrath and Hand of the Protector. Now let's say I'm in a hypothetical situation, where I want to activate both Seraphim and Avenging Wrath, and throw an off heal to a healer using my Hand of the Protector spell. As you can see on live, I can instantly use all 3 of these abilities without any problem. This means if I can react fast enough, there is no slowdown in activating these abilities. Now if we switch over to Alpha, you can see there is a difference on how fast I can activate these abilities. Now I will admit that this seems minimal, but when you are playing it in a real scenario, like a dungeon, you absolutely notice it. The fact that I can't heal myself or a teammate instantly with my Hand of the Protector spell does concern me, especially when doing more difficult content, where things become more dangerous and the effective use and timing of your abilities matter more. Now after seeing all that, this is a minor issue for a tank, as they can, but should not have to, be able to work around this. The bigger issue seems to be for certain DPS classes. So let's take a look at the other class that I play, a Fury Warrior. Now the Warrior was one of the classes I was considering rolling as a main for the Battle for Azeroth expansion, as I don't mind all three of the specs in Legion. I'm not the biggest fan of the tank spec, but as an overall package, the Warrior is a lot of fun to play. I especially enjoy the Fury Warrior, but after playing on Alpha, I'm starting to reconsider, as this is one of the classes that is affected much more by the global cooldown. So as you can see right now on Legion, I have 3 burst DPS talents that I use on a regular basis, those being Avatar, Bloodbath and Battlecry. To the left of those talents I have a macro called Nuke, which when used allows me to, as you can see, chain cast all 3 of these abilities together with one click of a button. Now some people may see that as cheating, but it's really not. It's just an effective way of lining up your cooldowns when a high amount of burst damage is required during a fight. It's also just a heck of a lot of fun, using these cooldowns and having them instantly work, and being able to do short, sharp bursts of DPS as part of your rotation. However, if we switch over to Alpha, we are faced with a different prospect altogether when using these 3 abilities. As you can see, when I use the macro, it only activates the first spell I have macroed, which in this case was Avatar, so you can now no longer chain cast all 3 of these abilities. You have to individually activate each ability if you want them all to be active at the same time, as they are now all affected by the global cooldown. So activating them all at once, as you can see, now takes a lot more time to do so. By doing this, it really does change how this class, and particularly this spec, feels to play. It feels a lot slower and at times quite irritating to play. So my final thoughts on this. Well, Blizzard have said that they will increase the duration of spells, such as Battlecry, which is called Recklessness in Battle for Azeroth, to compensate for the global cooldown. But let's say I pop Avatar, wait 1 second, then pop Bloodbath, wait 1 second, then pop Battlecry, and wait 1 more second before I can then begin my DPS rotation. In that time, I've already lost a number of seconds off my Avatar buff and off my Bloodbath buff. Let's also say I have an unused trinket that I can also include in that rotation, which again takes 1 second to use. Now are Blizzard really going to give me an additional 3 to 4 seconds worth of a cooldown, depending on what order I actually use these cooldowns in, to compensate for how much time I have lost in activating all of these abilities? Time which could have had me simply doing DPS if these were instant like they currently are in Legion. I somehow think not. As of right now, these changes make the game feel slower. It makes your character feel clunky and cumbersome to play. Having to wait before you press an ability may make it simpler for certain people, but I think these changes actually affect how the game actually feels to play. And surely gameplay has to be what is the most important factor here. Combat feels like it's been slowed down to some degree, and it's not as fast paced as it is in Legion. And in my opinion, it's simply not as fun to play, at least on certain classes. In Legion, I can't say I heard anyone or saw any forum posts of people complaining that the gameplay and combat of their character was not fluid to play. Now there may have been some people, but you can't deny that as of right now, in Legion, combat is in a pretty decent place, at least in terms of how it feels to play. The way it is in Alpha right now is a shame in my opinion, and I really do hope it's changed back to the way it was, but it seems unlikely. It will be interesting to see how a larger section of the player base react when Blizzard release the beta version to a larger pool of the player base. Will people notice the global cooldown? And will they even care? No doubt we will find out shortly. Anyway guys, that was just my thoughts on the global cooldown situation. I'd be really interested in your opinions, especially if you have alpha and have played a class that is affected by this. So please do comment, like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.